Well, good afternoon, New Heart Church family. Pastor Matt with you on this Thursday afternoon. Been on the phone with a bunch of folks today doing a lot of stuff, so I'm a little behind on this. I've also been working on sermon prep for the next 12 or 13 weeks, including going up through the time of Advent. And I always love Advent. It's I think the most wonderful season of the church, and we're only a few weeks from when we start to celebrate it. I think those are tremendous weeks in the Christian calendar, but Advent is more than just a reminder to remember that Jesus came to this world as a little child in Bethlehem. Advent reminds us that he will come again one day as king. That is an important truth for the church. The message is that the church is waiting for Christ to come a second time. But we live in the meanwhile. We are a waiting, expectant, serving people. But it's not a passive waiting. It's an active waiting. We're called to do something. Called to do several things. Reading Matthew 24 this morning, Jesus gets his disciples ready for waiting for this second advent. And he says to them, basically, all that he says can be summarized in kind of two words. He says, watch out. I love to play golf, and one of the things that I love watching happen is whenever a golfer gets out there and yells "four," which is the golf equivalent of "watch out," everybody kind of ducks their head, dives behind a tree, dives behind the golf cart. Those words, when you hear those words, they demand action. There's no time to ponder and think about it. You just react. Your eyes widen, your muscles tense, your ears perk up. You put your hands over your head. You every instinct in you is to move and to act. And I think that's precisely what Jesus is telling his disciples in Matthew 24. He says to them, watch out. Primarily what he says is watch out that you aren't deceived. And this deception he's talking about isn't coming from outsiders. It's coming from within. He's talking about false preachers and talking about people who proclaim a false gospel. It's when we think that we don't have to take Christianity very seriously, that we can just live our lives and just go along from day to day, that we just, if we follow the rules, everything will be okay. But that comes from a cold heart. Just before chapter 24, Matthew reports that Jesus confronted the religious professionals with all of that. He spoke a whole series of judgment, of woes, as it says in King James, to the teachers of the law and the Pharisees. He called them hypocrites. He called them whitewashed tombs. He called them a brood of vipers, all while they were standing in the temple. That's a tough speech to give and a tough place to give it. But after that confrontation, Jesus leaves the temple, and it's interesting to hear the reaction of the disciples. This was a major clash. This was a big, big issue. And the first thing the disciples can talk about is, wow, wasn't that a beautiful temple? and Jesus says, the day is coming when this beautiful temple, all the great religious systems that it represents, all of that will be brought to ruin. That's a rather shocking prophecy, but Jesus knew that the disciples were being deceived by appearances. They'd been drawn into the impressions of beauty and everything that was around them. So when he says, in effect, listen, everything you see here is going to be destroyed, that gets their attention. And they ask the same questions we would likely ask. They say, well, when's that going to happen? How's that going to happen? And that's when Jesus starts the passage there, Matthew 24, about watch out. He doesn't answer their concerns in terms of timetables or specific events. He doesn't give them details. Essentially, he says there's going to be lots of opportunity for deception. So while you are waiting, watch out that you are not deceived. That's the challenge of living and waiting. We live and we wait in expectation. Jesus told us that while that happens, they're going to throw you to the wolves. They're going to kill you. Everyone will hate you because of me. And then going from bad to worse, it'll be dog eat dog. Everyone at each other's throat, hating each other. And in the confusion, lying preachers will come forward and deceive a lot of people. For many others, the overwhelming spread of evil will do them in. Nothing left of their love except a mound of ashes. But he says, as Eugene Peterson writes in the Message, but stay with it. That's what God requires. Stay with it to the end. You won't be sorry, and you'll be saved. In other words, Jesus is telling his disciples, Not only watch out, but wait well, stay faithful, keep sharing the gospel right up until you can't share it anymore. So while we wait for Christ's return, our primary concern is not so much on what this world might do to us. Our chief concern is the very real possibility that in our waiting, our hearts might grow cold, impatient, unfaithful. Advent doesn't call us to remember that Jesus, it doesn't only call us to remember that Jesus came to Bethlehem. It calls us to remember that Jesus is coming again. So even before we begin the celebration of another Advent season, let me encourage you to hear the call that Jesus gave to his disciples. Watch out and wait well. Looking forward to seeing everybody Sunday. We'll have a second in my message of Love Has a Name, and I trust you'll join us. We have Sunday school at 9:45 and morning worship at 10:45 in the building. If you can't make it in the building, we do a Zoom Sunday school class, and we also have our YouTube presentation for the morning worship service at 10:45. Send us emails at newheartnazarene@gmail.com, and we'll be more than happy to send you a link to participate with us. God bless you. Have a great day. Looking forward to seeing you Sunday and next week as well. Take care.